On today's market report show on ADBN, I am Adefola Olamilekun. My guest is already seated on the other side to help us understand energy poverty in Nigeria. Doc, a very good day to you, sir. All right, it's like you have to unmute yourself. All right, a very good day to you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Very well, sir, very well.
Good.
All right, so let's get started, Doc. When we talk about energy poverty, what does it really connote? Because a lot of Nigerians will be asking, energy poverty, what does it really mean when we say Nigerian energy poverty?
Good afternoon, or good day, or good night, wherever you are watching this from. Thank you for having me. I'm engineer Dr. Jafaru Mahmud, MNI. When we talk about poverty itself, it's not significantly different from poverty of wealth, poverty of food. What it means is that you don't have it. The best is that you have a bit of it that is not sufficient. So because of that, you are unable to achieve certain goals you are to achieve, because energy costs across every sector. Anything you want to do, if you do not have energy, is it even in your quality of life? Is it in your profession? Whichever profession you belong to, one way or the other, you need energy to be able to support you. So if you don't have it, or it is not sufficient, sometimes you won't have the money you don't have, because the free infrastructure, the facilities are not available. So if you do not have it, that is when we now talk about energy poverty. For Nigeria, for example, we've been so poor energy-wise for decades. To the extent that at one time somebody was saying that it's like there are some spiritual forces that want to stop us from being energy sufficient. So we have been suffering this, and it has hindered the nature of development or where we are supposed to be compared to other countries we started together. And also compared to the situation that we are. What I mean is the situation that we are compared to in the tropics. We are well located. We have all seasons. We have the sun. It comes in every day. As we speak now, if you go outside, wherever you are in Nigeria, the sun is there. So even when you think of it that way, you discover that we are still poor. So for somebody to say that Nigeria is suffering from energy poverty, the person is very correct.
All right.
We have tried as much as possible to invest in that. Maybe as the discussion goes on, we'll be able to unveil some of the other issues.
Exactly. Actually, talking about the investment, just recently, the federal government of Nigeria has launched an solar energy scheme. But before I get to that investment scheme of the federal government, if you have been in this sector for a very long time, and I remember at a particular time when you also at NASENI solar energy company here in Abuja some years back that I visited the factory, you guys were doing fantastically well. But if you ask the question, what is the rate of solar energy used in Nigeria? Because it is the renewable energy that many countries have embraced. But in Nigeria, how can we relate to it in terms of Nigerian using it and Nigerian embracing it?
Yes, that is what some people will refer to as solar penetration, the degree of penetration of solar energy. It is still far from what it's supposed to be. But gradually, I must say, it is improving. You go around now, you see some rooftops, you see some evidence of solar panel. But what would the big question will be, how much does it satisfy the requirements of those there? That's for those who even have. How much is the degree of affordability at the moment? So the degree of penetration is still very, very poor. Probably some reports have said, okay, it's going up to 20%, it's going on to 25%, but these ones are merely city analysis. So if you go deep, it's still a bit lower than that. Even the awareness, we did an interview to go around was it in 2022 or 2023? And we discovered that even the awareness, for some people who even use it, they just used it because they were compelled to, not that they are aware that they are saving the environment, they are aware that they are complementing whatever other source that comes in. So the degree of solar penetration is still quite low. We need to do quite more work.
Exactly.
The government is trying. That's why they set on NASENI Solar Energy Limited. Other forces, they are supporting other structures to, okay, let them come in. But it's still low. There's quite a lot we can do to improve the situation.
And I'm talking about being low in terms of energy penetration or solar penetration, as rightly pointed out. But there have been this argument, which I've had the opportunity to discuss with some of my colleagues in the media space. They told that the federal government solar energy scheme is just concentrated in the rural areas without looking at the urban and suburban areas that also need this energy. So what do you have to say about that? Because the scheme I'm about to mention now is about 5 million solar energy scheme that will cost about $10 billion import substitution. But all of them is going to the rural areas. What about these urban and suburban centers?
Yes, the reason why government may have, I'm not a spokesperson for government, why government may have decided to do that is this. The city, they have, as band and infrastructure, a relative power infrastructure. And there are discos, distribution companies that have already taken certain territories that they support, however poorly they do that. So the rural areas, these are areas that there is, so in some of these areas, there is no sign that they are likely to get anything close to power in the next 10 or 20 years for some of the areas. Similarly, if you are able to take rural areas, you are going to decongest the city. You are going to have even distribution of human and population. People will be able to stay in their villages and be able to live well. But if you do not, and you bring it back to the city again, where you already have a minimum power or will have some form of power, you are still going to have issues. So to assist or to encourage people to stay in their places, for instance, somebody who does barber, somebody who does hairdressing, somebody who does tomato grounding or whatever, will be able to survive. Even the welder, will be able to survive in the rural areas. And development, preservation of food, agricultural products, all these ones, they come from the hinterland rather than the main cities. So if you are able to move energy this way, that is not to say that the city is supposed to be neglected. Energy is something that is needed both in the city and in the village or in the rural areas. So, but this is what I think motivated government to do that. But like you mentioned, I was managing director of NASENI Solar Energy Limited. If you have seen some of the areas that we went to, some of the things that we had to do, you will see how the appreciation, the happiness, in some cases, the villagers didn't sleep when we installed. They would not sleep till the next day because power has come. And they begin to buy things like television so that they were able to know what is happening in the other part of the world. So these are some of the reasons I can adduce that this is why the government said, okay, let's also consider the rural area. Apart from that, they are human beings. They are entitled to a good quality of life as much as you have in the city. So if you do not take care of them, they will come to the city. They may not be doing much in the city. They overstretch the facilities of the city. So these are some reasons why I think government now said, okay, give some attention to them, not in any case neglecting the city itself.
Exactly. I quite agree with you on this point that you have raised. But let's take this issue one after the other, because as Saila pointed out in this issue, we want to look at the energy poverty of Nigeria, the relevance of solar energy as part of the government effort to bring about renewable energy. There are other sources apart from solar energy that federal government is pushing, but solar has become one of the leading scheme that federal government is putting money. But Doc, let's take this issue first. There are people who raise concern about the challenge in the sector, particularly challenge of solar power, manufacturing in Nigeria. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, because you cannot compare when you import and when you manufacture locally. Because of the costs involved. Unfortunately, we have the materials very raw here. So we buy some part of it, for instance, the solar cells. As we speak, solar cells are not being produced in Nigeria. That's why NASENI went into trying to establish a solar cell manufacturing plant. So if you do not give emphasis to manufacturing, we are tested enough. We are convinced that solar energy can work. Why you think solar energy is leading and it should lead is because of it's about the quickest means you can activate to get power. If you are able to put your facilities together as we speak, now, you will get light now, once the sun is there. And if at the end of the day you deplete your energy, next morning power will come. Compare that to wind. Compare that to biomass. What are the conversion technology do you require? What is the preparation do you require? So that is why you see that solar energy is ahead and people are embracing it. People need power. Nobody wants to know how you get the power. So because people need power and you have this knowledge, you can put it together. But the way to go is manufacturing. Why? If you manufacture, you create it just for the local purpose. You see, achieve the energy sufficiency that you are pursuing if your targets are right and parameters are right. Then you develop expertise that will be able to maintain infrastructure. And you also improve, consider your local situation, because solar is location dependent. What you get, depending on what your inputs are, in terms of your knowledge of it, your expertise, your resources and equipment, what you get in one location will be different from what you get in others. We are fortunate in Nigeria that across the country, there's at least some degree of sunlight every day, which is good enough for us to be able to improve, to get supporting facilities to be able to do that. So the government, like I said, they are trying, but they seem to do more to be able to bring this closer to people. Importation, if you import, you are still giving jobs to people outside. You need to develop local capacity. You need to develop local equipment. You need to develop local experts who will be able to support the system and sustain it.
Now, talking about local capacity and local sustenance of this solar energy sector of our economy is quite very huge. For instance, the technicality and installation of capacity is quite low on Nigeria. And I take a record of the level of megawatt of solar that we have in Nigeria is less than 7 megawatts. I think doctor will have to agree with me because I got that data from Federal Ministry of Power in Abuja here. We have just 7 megawatt of solar energy being generated in Nigeria, coupled with the entire 13,000 capacity that we have. But the challenge still boils down to financing. Doc, how are we going to get money to finance this sector? Because federal government on its own, for instance, there is an agreement signed with World Bank recently and African Development Bank, the 300 million mission. I know you are aware of it. It is going to be power through solar, and they are going to spend billions of US dollars. But Nigeria doesn't have that money. So where are we going to get that money? Because the financing gap is also a challenge that we need to address.
Yes. One thing, as at today, solar is relatively expensive. There are different models that other countries have used. Then again, the 7 megawatts of solar power, that is what is registered. I'll tell you there may be 1 or 2 that may differ from that. It could be a little bit higher. How? If you go out now and you bring in a solar facility inside your bag, that is contributing to the energy mix. So that statistics is not readily available to Ministry of Power. I don't know how they get. Are not contesting their data anyway.
Exactly.
So, but the issue of financing, there are several models that if government cannot do it directly, there are other models that you can graduate. Some are small. For instance, the smallholders. At a time, in a sense, what we did was let's talk to some of these banks. What we do is that a civil servant can connect with them, and they will be able to pay little by little. Of course, there should be somebody who is standing by to support the finances. So globally, even when the World Bank or the development bankers, they come to say they are going to support you, they can't do everything. You will need some other form of models that have worked elsewhere, even some in Nigeria too. For instance, for some people, the office, you can say, okay, your office, you want it to run completely on solar. Your house, you want it to run 30% on solar. These ones, you need to put in some funds on your own, not necessarily waiting for government. The government, what they need to do is to give enabling environment. The government need to look at what are the taxes involved, especially in areas of manufacturing, because the multiplying effect will be high. But when you concentrate, when you would say, okay, we are importing, if you import, of course, Forex is involved. Of course, the Naira, we know the value of our Naira. We know the fluctuations. We know how hard things can be difficult. Imagine if for a civil servant to say you want to get 1.5 kVA, what will that do? Probably that is lighting only, and what TV or this. But when you think of, okay, you want to put a refrigerator or a freezer or all other things, you see that the price is high, and the civil servant is not readily going to have resources to be able to cover this at a point of the at an instance. So you will need some form of leveraging that will expand maybe his payment period and things, and that's where the banks have to be involved. The private sector also will have to support. Solar, the value chain includes businesses. You can participate in a sector and do a business out of it. So if you say, okay, you and those who are giving grant can give grant, those who cannot give grant say, no, we want the models that they want. They want the finances to return. What I mean is it has to be recovered. There are those ones. And there are those who themselves, they make a business out of it. You buy whatever you want, the facility, you serve some people, you do the pay as you go, which means the equipment belongs to the person, the service provider. So that makes it easy, and all these approaches will expand the net for those who are involved in the sector, either as suppliers, other as users, or other as facilitators.
Very interesting.
So the financing will come from all ends.
Exactly.
The smallholders will have to put in their money. See, the small civil servant, they have to be models. The banks will have to develop critical mobile. I'm sure some of them are already doing that. They have to develop some models that will allow those who do not have the muscles, the financial muscles, to be able to take it at once. To say, okay, we'll be able to assist this, we'll be able to assist, we'll be able to assist this way. You can pay in this way, pay in this way, pay in this way. Once that commitment in there, and the users are responsible, that's what I would say, financially, then that can also be a source of funding for the sector. The government will be doing its own. Those development or donor organizations, they will also support.
Exactly. Now, talking about support and donor agencies, federal government, the rest of it, there's one key argument that analysts also come out to say that we don't have an harmonized regulatory framework to guide the sector. That the sector framework is still disjointed, and that's why many Nigerians are still looking at wind energy, biomass energy, and solar energy, and other sorts of energy. But if we have an harmonized policy regulatory framework, it will guide Nigerians and to make where these investors will come into. So, what's your take on that?
Yes, to say there's no regulatory framework, that is not completely correct. As of last year, the president, commander-in-chief, signed the Electricity Act. So there are provisions. The Energy Commission have participated in one or two of the workshops where some of these guidelines were generated for solar, for biomass, and others. So what we need to do is if it is in the implementation. Need to be able to say, okay, this is the Standard Organization of Nigeria. Also, I also belong to their technical committees, one or two of their committees where some of these have been discussed. Even equipment, conversion technologies, and storage equipment like batteries and whatever, there are standards that are developed for this. So I think what the state we need to move into is effective implementation to ensure that all those who are participating in the sector, first of all, they ensure that the right things are done, the right equipment are done, the right standards are followed. Once these ones are done, even those who are becoming discouraged to use solar because some of them feel uncomfortable, they will be encouraged because the confidence level will go higher. So regulatory framework, there are some already, they may not be sufficient, but I think if we implement whatever we have at the moment, I think we will move forward while we cover up whatever is remaining as compared to other countries who are ahead of us.
Exactly. Now, talking about meeting up with other countries that are ahead of us, there's this argument that I also had the opportunity to engage with my other colleagues, and they said we need to also remove tax on some of these imported solar panel and the rest of them, since we are unable to turn our raw materials into some of these panels that we're supposed to remove some taxes, and also make easy license procedure for importation of some of this material into the country. Do you support that also?
Why are we interested in finished products? Is it that we want to test whether it can work? We have done that. What is stopping us? What is the spirit that others are using to convert the same raw material they take from us and convert it and bring it back to us, and we are happy to buy it? What is there? Nigeria have people who have schooled abroad. In whatever country you think of it, there's a Nigeria who has gone there to study. And whatever costs them. Let's even say we don't even have them. Why not we concentrate on sending people, on developing that expertise so that we'll be able to generate it? There is hardly any university that has engineering that will not be able to, will not be able to work on silica. The purity in some part of Nigeria, purity of silica that we have, is up to 95%. So for me, if you are talking about the immediate, the short term, the urgent one, okay, let us continue to import. But how sustainable is that? How much is going out? That if you plot a percentage, a fraction of that into converting these raw materials into finished goods so that people can enjoy it, then it would be better to go far. The headache of forex will be reduced. You have experts that cannot only serve Nigeria, that can also serve the continent. When I was in NASENI, we had the opportunity of receiving a lot of people from other countries within the African continent and outside. And they celebrated the fact that something is being done there and that it can be better. So for me, as good as it is, that we want to be able to say, okay, good, let people get whatever they want to get it. But if you are able to improve on your local capacity, that will be better. Your control will be higher. Are you going to test 1,000 panels that are brought from any other country to ascertain that? How many of the panels have been brought in? And we test them, we see that some of them are even below half the rating that is written on them. And you use that to do installation, and you have problems. And the client will say, okay, no, this thing has expensive as it is giving me headache. So for me, I would say that let us concentrate on local capacity, local production. Do a very strong plan. There's nothing wrong in asking anybody who is better than you how this thing is being done. But where it becomes a problem, where you become enslaved forever, is when you do not have a plan to be able to do it yourself someday. Because you perpetually create opportunities for others when you are crying that yours don't have places to work.
Very interesting, Doc. And I love your submission that we need to improve on our local capacity. Our local capacity is when we engineer a better solar energy power for Nigeria. Then going forward, now let's begin to look at maybe a medium to short term solutions to some of the challenges that we have identified. Particularly, first, talk about finance, talk about technical installation, then also look at the area of technical capacity for Nigerians. But let's take this headlong. First, let's look at issue of government ensuring that not just national government alone, subnational government also participate in solar energy for their people. Because I've seen that it's only federal government to the rural electrification agency that is doing much of this solar empowerment for rural communities. So how can we bring state government, local government into the fora of providing solar energy to empower local communities in Nigeria?
Yeah, some state governments are doing something, I know. Some part of, in Edo, you have some things like that. But how are they doing it? Who is doing it? What is the plan? What is sustainability plan? How do they intend to go beyond just packing everything, bringing it there and put it together? And there will be light for 1, 2, 3 times, and when there's a problem, nobody takes over. How much? There are some organizations that are trying to put up a training facility. Of course, you know, it's necessary to also train. But what is the ratio of that to what we are looking at in the next 5-10 years? In the curriculum, for example, there are some universities, they are doing courses, some courses that are related to solar. What is the general curriculum for solar? I know MBTA is trying to put up something that wise, but it should be a wholesome approach. There should be a deliberate attempt or deliberate measure to ensure that educationally it is infused, so that people can have a career in renewable energy. So that one you consider as a long term. But for the short term, like I mentioned to you, let there be models. The banks, they have to be involved, not in the capitalist approach itself, but not that they should do it at the loss, but they should also encourage others a bit by bit payment. There should be other organizations who should assist. The government should concentrate on regulation, standards, ensuring that the right things are done at the right time by the right people.
Also, very good from you.
So, if the government takes care of that, then the banks and other funding agencies, they support those the low holders, like 0.5, 1.5. So, if this support is continuous, then that can take care of that sector itself. You will go to build experts. In the next 5-10 years, we'll be able to see that we have sufficient to take care of ourselves and even export some expertise to neighboring countries and others.
Exactly. I really love your last submission, expatriate and export our expatriate to other countries and others. Now, as we round up in the next 2 minutes, I would like your sincere advice to the federal government. Federal government is spending money on our energy mix. Some people have even questioned how far are we going in this energy transition, energy mix of the federal government. We have the oil and gas sector, we have our national grid collapsing here and there, but we have found a leeway to embrace solar energy. But in your sincere advice to the federal government in taking this headlong, we have been told they are going to spend about sharing about 5 million solar panels across Nigeria, whereby 25 million Nigerians will benefit from it, and about $10 billion will be gotten as import substitution. But more is still needed. So what's your sincere advice to the federal government of Nigeria going forward as a roundup?
My sincere advice to the federal government of Nigeria is to improve on investments for manufacturing of solar energy products locally. They should invest in that sector. Who is
I think we're having an audio problem with Doc as he come to talk. I don't know whether audio. We can't.
Is it better now?
Oh yeah, better. It's better now, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. What I'm saying is that I would advise government to improve the investments on the manufacturing aspects across the chain, from raw materials to finished products. Solar cells, develop them. Storage facilities, batteries, develop them locally. By the right people. Where there is a gap, look for areas or look for countries or people who have done it better. Let them come and assist. That will reduce the cost that will be involved, and that will improve the quality of life of the people, will save the environment, and also reduce the carbon emissions.
Exactly.
Of course, I'm sure you will know that there are also gains from that if we are able to keep carbon emission within certain limits.
Exactly.
So that will be my submission. And if the awareness should also increase. Those who are involved, whether it's government or stakeholders, they should increase the awareness. Let people know this can be a solution to it. So that the big those who can pay for power as expensive as it is today, let them be the manufacturing companies, let them take care of that. But for domestic use and other uses, we have a lot that they do locally to be able to improve that. Importation is good, but let it not be permanent.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. Jafaru Mahmud, former Managing Director of NASENI Solar Energy Limited here in Abuja. Thank you for being on the show, and we love your brilliant submission on the way to go. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so very much for having me.
All right, sir. So enjoy the rest of your day over there, sir.